Welcome to Over 50 TV. My name is Lou Reyes. Today I've got a very special guest for you. Her name is Kishia Townsend. Now, Kish is a real estate professional. She's been on both sides of the real estate sales process. She's been both a buyer and a seller. And today, Kishia Townsend is going to tell us 5 totally simple steps to buy your first investment property. Before we get into it, though, before I introduce you to Kishia, I just want to mention that over50tv.com, our new website, is now live and online. If you want more ideas about making money, if you want to learn about career opportunities, if you want tips on how to enjoy your best life, well, then check out over50tv.com. So now let me introduce you to Kishia Townsend. Kishia, welcome to Over 50 TV.
Hi, thank you so much, Lou. I've been watching your channel for a little while, and I was really excited that you invited me on here today. And yes, I do have a background in real estate as a real estate professional. Like you mentioned, I've been on both sides of the real estate transactions. I've bought, I've sold, I've invested in properties myself personally, and I speak to a lot of people about buying their first home, buying their first investment property, and I was just glad that you invited me on here to talk about the 5 totally simple steps that you can take to, make that happen as an investor.
Well, I'm glad you're here too, Kishia, because I think that even though right now we know that as we sit here, the interest rate is about or approaching like 7%, which is ridiculously high. That's probably, I don't want to say it's historically high because it's not. I mean, I remember it was actually higher way back when, but right now it's approaching a pretty high level. But at the same time, it's good to learn to understand how to go ahead and buy an investment property. So let's talk about the 5 simple steps. Can you rattle them off for us?
Yeah. But just addressing the interest rate, I hear that all the time lately. A lot of people are afraid of investing or buying a property for their personal use because of interest rates being right now, over 7.25. And I think a lot of us have gotten spoiled with the way the interest rates were, just maybe a year ago, when we were looking at interest rates that were half that.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at making a long-term investment, as long as the numbers make sense, long term, that's really what you want to look at. As long as the numbers make sense to you long term, as far as whether you're investing in a property or as an investment property, or if you're purchasing your own personal property, as long as the numbers make sense, it doesn't really matter what the interest rate is, I guess you could say.
So let's get on to it. Let's talk about it. So what are the 5 steps?
Well, definitely you want to plan. You want to know, okay, do I want to invest in residential or commercial? You could invest in a single family, a double. You could invest in an apartment building. You have to plan out like what you want to invest in. And you want to understand how the whole process works. And there's so much information out here. Sometimes it can be information overload, but I would suggest just talking to someone who's already investing. And most of us know someone who's purchased a property where they've rented it out, or a condo where they've rented it out, or maybe they bought a home where they lived on one side and rented out the other. I know several people have done that. So I would say, just asking other people who have done this as a part of your plan, understanding what types of properties you would like to invest in. So that's all part of your planning process. Then you want to look at the numbers. And a good way to do that is to team up with a real estate agent and have him or her provide information on properties that are available. So you want to take a look at what's available. You want to kind of run the numbers to see if they work for you. And in your And in your planning, you want to make sure you do that. And that step probably kind of runs into the third step, which is, doing your research and working with a lender to also help you with running those numbers and making sure that they make sense for what your goals are.
When you say research, though, what are you talking about exactly? Because, okay, I understand planning. You're looking at, do I want a single family, a double? Do I want commercial? Do I want residential? I mean, I understand that you're talking about planning. Then you talk about the numbers, which you really mean budget. So you're looking at your budget. I guess you're saying, what can I afford? What makes sense to me that'll fit in my budget? But then the research end, when you're researching, are you talking about like in researching the city, the town? What's the market like? I mean, there's a lot involved in research, I would think.
Yeah, but again, sometimes we make it harder than it really is. And it could be pretty simplified as far as research goes. You just want to know what areas you want to buy in, do some research, drive around. What kinds of amenities are in that area? Are there, schools nearby the properties that you're looking at maybe renting out? Are there parks? Is it close to, freeway access? These are things that someone who you would be renting that property to would be looking at. So you want to do that research to make sure that those desirable amenities are there as far as, the areas you're looking in and those specific properties that you're looking at possibly investing in.
So what's the next step?
You definitely want to connect with a lender to get pre-approved. I know there are lots of creative ways to fund an investment property, but as someone just starting out, you probably just want to take a look at investing in funding this purchase the traditional way by working with the lender. And you don't want to get surprised when you hear this, but when you are looking at an investment property, you're going to need about 20 to 30% upfront as a down payment versus purchasing a personal property. You're going to have a little bit more invested upfront, and typically that would be 20, 30% down.
One thing I've always thought, or maybe it was maybe I'm imagining it, but I thought lenders frown on someone who is trying to borrow money if they're not going to live there. They've got to have a higher credit score. I mean, are there anything like that? Am I imagining that?
There are so many different ways, like I mentioned, to purchase an investment property. There are lots of creative finance ways, but if you're going through a traditional lender, like, your regular bank, maybe your neighborhood bank, maybe the bank that you bought your personal home through, that lender is going to want to see a little bit more invested in that property as far as your down payment is concerned, because you do not live in that property. An investor isn't someone who would be turned away from using traditional lending. They would, again, just need to have a little bit more down as far as their down payment, usually like 30% down.
Okay. And that makes sense to me. So what's the fifth and final step?
Well, you just want to go for it. You just want to go ahead after you've, done your research, you have identified what type of property you want to invest in. You've got your financing in place. You've already spoken to a lender. You may already have a real estate professional on your team to help you in that identifying different properties. You want to just go for it. You want to start making offers. It doesn't hurt to, just put an offer out there that you feel is an offer that works for you. Sometimes investors, especially when you're first starting out, feel like, I don't want to offer too low, or maybe I'm offering too high, or, I just don't know what to offer. But just go for it. Just make an offer. The best thing that can happen is that seller says yes, and you're on your way to being an investor. So that's the fifth and final step, is just getting out there and making those offers.
Well, that sounds good to me. It also sounds a little scary, I guess, especially if it's your first time. But like you said, you just got to go for it. You got to go get that deal. Well, Kish, thanks so much for getting together with us today and talking about the five what you said are totally simple steps when it comes to buying a residential or buying a property especially when it's your first one, your first investment property. So any last words of encouragement, any last words of advice?
Like I said, I would just, if you have a desire to become an investor, just get out there and do it. Just go for it.
Well, thanks, Kish. I appreciate it. And as I always say to our viewers, have a great day, everybody.